Hello, everyone, and welcome to the 24th episode of the Orcocast today with a very special guest. Live from Florida. It is 8 a.m. in the morning. It is Mr. Positivity himself, Mr. Professor Panda.
Woo. Happy Saturday.
Happy Saturday. And we have our beautiful co-hosts over there, Bum Bum.
Hello.
And obviously the one, the only, the master, the Lord Val Gaming, live from Spain.
Yeah, hola.
Hola, ¿cómo está? Gentlemen, we have a packed program today. We are going to talk about a lot of stuff. Bethesda, or more precisely Zenimax Media, Bethesda's parent company, getting bought by Microsoft. We're going to talk about a former Blizzard CEO founding a little studio called Dreamhaven. And we are going to talk about BPM. And we are going to talk about Inertial Drift. Inertial Drift, Mum will say the title right.
Yeah. It's Inertial Drift, yeah.
Inertial Drift. Exactly. Exactly that are we going to talk about. Gentlemen, we start with the big fish, with the very big fish that happened this week. Bethesda, Zenimax Media, getting bought out by Microsoft. I'm gonna insert a little impression of Lil Wayne over here, throwing the money around, because that's exactly what happened. $7.5 billion.
Holy bamboo.
Yeah. Later, Microsoft owns Bethesda, which is basically... So, get this in perspective. The deal was more expensive, but this is on the same level, I would say almost, of Disney either buying Star Wars, if we want it in a more nuanced way, or I would even almost say it's almost on the same level as Disney acquiring Fox.
Yeah.
That makes sense.
Because this is huge. Bethesda has a huge catalog of fan favorites, which Fox has as well. And it's all owned by Microsoft now. And Microsoft is smart in why they do that. And why they do that, we are going to get into a second. But first, I want to hear your thoughts, obviously.
And silence.
Silence. Total freaking silence.
No. Yeah, honestly, like, for me, the only studios that matter to me under that umbrella of Zenimax and Bethesda is Arcane and the Shinji Mikami studio that did Tango Softworks that did the Evil Within 1 and 2, and they're working on the new weird Japanese style horror game. Obviously it's a big thing because Skyrim and the Elder Scrolls in general is still a staple in gaming, and Skyrim has been being re-released over the last almost a decade, and it's still very popular, so it makes sense also in a way that we know that Microsoft is not doing closed console exclusives anymore. So in a way, this is a way for them to lock people into Microsoft centric platforms, either PC or their Xboxes, because now that's the only place you can get to those games, Skyrim or the Elder Scrolls 6 and whatever like that. So I think I think it's essentially a power move to offset the lack of exclusivity and have essentially a one-up on Sony, because it might mean that there is a batch of games that are still going to come out on the Sony consoles, but afterwards we might get only some, if any, of their output on PlayStation, while they'll be all coming out just on the Xboxes and PC.
So here's what I think, and this might sound ridiculous, but keep with me here. Microsoft already said that their competition isn't Sony anymore. this is not a move against Sony, because I think at this point, if you look at the power dynamics we have here, last year Sony signed a contract with Microsoft to use their Azure cloud to do their game development on. So you see the power dynamic here. What this is and what this is going to be. Microsoft is on the forefront of cloud gaming. Google would have liked to be the first one, but they squandered that massively. And if anyone is able to pull off a Netflix of gaming, essentially, this is going to be Microsoft. I'm gonna tell you now, we are going to see, not maybe right away, but maybe in a decade, is Microsoft having its own cloud gaming service, which is installed on every platform, just like Netflix, and they are going to rake in money because they have stuff like Elder Scrolls, they have all the good stuff. What they are doing basically right now is building a catalog for the future. They are hoarding IPs, they are hoarding intellectual property.
Yeah, I mean, they've been doing that for a while now as well, where they were buying smaller studios like In Exile, Obsidian, and stuff like that.
Yeah, obviously, but this is the big power move right now.
Yeah.
Professor.
Oh, sorry, go ahead.
And it becomes even more, or this is the one point where everyone should think about what they're actually doing, because nobody gets suspicious if Microsoft buys In Exile, Obsidian, because nobody really gives a toot about those smaller studios. They say, oh, it's good there with Microsoft now, means more games. But this is like I said, this is like Disney acquiring Fox. You should bat an eyelid at that and think about what is actually the strategy of Microsoft.
And I think that's an absolutely panderific point of view, because one thing that I think, just to benchmark off what you said, Orco, is really three things. Because when you talk about comparing this to a Fox or a Star Wars acquisition, if you keep in mind, you don't think of it as the company that acquired that, whatever that particular item is. Fox is still seen as its own standalone item. Star Wars is still seen as its standalone brand. And I think with Microsoft doing this acquisition, they've put it themselves in a very unique situation, that they are picking up titles, they're picking up Bethesda basically, and they're picking up these items that stand alone on their own. So they're picking up IPs that are self-sufficient. So they don't necessarily have to step in to change anything per se, but they're setting the foundation of being there and having it at least under their umbrella. And I think that's an important point, because really one of the, no matter how you look at it, when you talk about cloud gaming being kind of that next step, really one of the biggest places that Microsoft put themselves in is having the Game Pass, and really advocating to this, not just allocated to Xbox, being available for a lot of their titles, where you could have it Xbox or PC. And that's the end of the day. There was a point where a system exclusivity was a make or break point, and that perspective is not valid anymore. People look to that flexibility where they can hang out with other panda cubs, so to say, that are, regardless of what platform they're using. That is an incitement. So if a company is focused on trying to make sure that they are siloed, it's going to end up, at least when you look at that future state, I think it's going to end up bamboozling them. So I think that's a very good point, Orco.
So you think that essentially once they go into the streaming, they might just ditch essentially in a way the Xbox hardware and just sell the license to put their own streaming service onto any other platform?
No,
so say
absolutely.
you like Netflix, as you said, it's like Netflix, you can get it on PlayStation, Xbox, and Nintendo as well.
Yes, but I personally also do think they will keep the Xbox around.
Well, keep in mind though, the important thing, even if they did keep the Xbox around, and please tell me just to shut the bamboo up if I'm talking too much. By all means, this is new territory for me, of course, right? But but just to benchmark off that, even if they did keep the Xbox around, the beauty of that is the two items are seen independent. So one is not going to cannibalize the other, so to say. So they can safely make the next Skyrim, so to say, or the next Elder Scrolls available on multiple platforms and still be able to make a profit, bringing the Xbox to light. Because with the Xbox Ones, one of the big things I felt that Microsoft was trying to do with the Xbox is to pull away from the concept of it being a gaming application. That's very much the main purpose of it, but they really have been pushing the multimedia aspect of it, the benefits of what you can use this system for that's not just for gaming. And I think that's where they're trying to put the concept of the Xbox, of looking at it more than just an actual gaming console. So
isn't that what they did with Xbox One and just blew up in their faces?
Yes, but I presume they want to do it better now. I don't think
Yeah,
that the
obviously.
Xbox One plans are completely shelved. It's just a matter of how you do it. And I think Don Matrick at the time did it so poorly that everyone else obviously blew in their faces. But just imagine Microsoft telling you, I mean, we are not, you and I, Bam, are not casual gamers, but just imagine being a casual gamer. And Microsoft comes to you and says, here's the box, this is all you need.
exactly.
Yeah,
They will just buy that box.
Yeah, true.
It will work that way. Believe me, they will find their audience. So, well, what are your thoughts on that? You have been remaining very silent.
No, I just don't think that the physical console is never gonna go away, and this is gonna stay forever. I don't know. The streaming service it's too early, in my opinion. We don't know what happened to Stadia and the whole streaming service. I mean, it's nice, we got Netflix and stuff, which is movies and everything is fine, but there's still a massive delay on everything that you're streaming. Even though I don't know if you guys heard about the whole Microsoft. Now you can play from your phone, you can play from your iPad, and you can play from all these places. So basically, even though you can play from this, with all gamers, that is more like this is more catered towards people that are more casual, because I can see a massive input lag on that. Like that is like nowhere near what I'm used to. So obviously, I would get more frustrated rather than I've tried it myself, and I get more frustrated than actually feeling good about playing it. The technology is just not there yet.
Yet,
I
that's the
can
key.
see, yet. I can see I would say about 10 more years until that system gets developed to a point where it could be as smooth as, say, Netflix when it's gaming, basically.
And
I don't think physical consoles are ever going to go away. I think that's going to be an option that is always going to be there. And I don't think like in my opinion, actually, like that the one thing that I was disappointed with on Microsoft with the new Xbox Series X is that the Series S is a downgraded version. I want to see like a PlayStation 5. I want to see a no disc version of the actual powerful console. I want to see the Xbox Series X with a no disc version, which is it will be, like PlayStation will be a lot cheaper, like about $100 cheaper. And, that I would see that moving forward, what the option is going to be moving forward, basically, into the future.
and
Because.
Yeah.
oh, go ahead.
Go
Yeah,
ahead.
go.
Go ahead.
Go.
I was just going to say just to benchmark Val off what you're saying. I think that really with that piece being said, kind of like what Orco was mentioning, it's going to boil down to IPs. Then it's going to be when as the technology evolves, the big game changer is going to be who is it that who has the ownership of those particular titles that are going to survive through this next technology wave. So I think that's a very brotastic point. So.
I don't know how it's gonna be. I don't know. Having the console seems to be the best option right now, and even though the streaming, I know how ambitious Microsoft is being right now with the whole streaming service, and it's very neat to be actually go onto your holidays, pick up your game, whatever you left off. All you have to bring with you is your actual controller. You just bring your controller with you, and you can play any games, which is great. It's absolutely amazing. I mean, don't get me wrong. I think Sony's falling behind on all of that, to be honest. The
Sony,
whole PlayStation Plus is nowhere near what Game Pass offers, and they're not innovating. You know what I mean? I think Microsoft is innovating, but it's doing a clever move. They didn't go to a version of the PS Vita and they said, okay, this is not the future. We don't see that as a future. And they were right. And now they go full on streaming service, full on, into Game Pass, and allow you to play everywhere, and cross, phones and iPads, and you can play and leave it on your phone and then pick it up again on your console 10 minutes later. And I honestly think that is the future. It's not just it's not gonna be now, but that, in my opinion, Microsoft is doing the right moves.
yeah, they are going to push into that direction hard. They are just doing it better than Google ever could imagine doing it. The other thing I want to touch on again is, like, we discussed this at length last week. Like I said, and I stand by that, Sony doesn't have the resources to pull anything of that kind of caliber off, because you have to imagine Microsoft owns one of the biggest clouds in the world, only rivaled by AWS. It's the Azure cloud.
Mm-hmm.
And so, on a side note, Amazon actually introduced their own cloud gaming service called Lunar.
Mm-hmm.
And since Microsoft doesn't see Sony as their competition anymore, and they said as much, this is their competition. They're going to compete with, I guess, Google. I mean, there's no competition with, like, a completely failed project like Stadia, but it's there. And we have Lunar, Amazon's cloud service. And this is where the battle comes in, and those two giants, if they still exist in a decade, because it can go very fast in this world that you don't exist anymore overnight, will battle it out over the cloud gaming service. They just will. And Sony and Nintendo can just watch in awe from the sideline, because they will just be, Gojira!
Honestly, I think they shown, like, Nintendo has essentially shown no interest in, like, cloud gaming, in a way, from what I've seen. They're still, like, really classical household names, so I think really, like, they've been out of the race, out of competition. Nintendo Wii, they made their money there, and they essentially don't have to care, because they have, like, their own install base that will always buy Nintendo stuff. For Sony, yeah, I think essentially they'll probably have to develop something like Nintendo, which is like household brands that will carry them through and find their own niche. And I think their own niche is gonna be probably hardcore gamers, people that still care, like, not just about gaming as a service, but either an actual art form or an entertainment that has a certain form.
Yeah, exactly.
I would agree.
I think they will find their audience, and they will find their niche, because if I look at my consoles I own, the only one I still play is my Nintendo console, for example, because they offer the stuff I want to play, the cool stuff I want to play. Maybe not in the fidelity of my high-end gaming PC, but it's there, and it's still a lot of fun to play, and I enjoy playing the Switch on the go a lot.
Yeah. And the thing is also, like, consoles still are the one spot where you get to play most of the independent output out of Japan. Not a whole lot of them get to PC, so consoles are the way for that as well.
Absolutely, and just to benchmark off that, because that's a panderific point, is I think the two things that Nintendo has going for it, and this is just from a weird observation that I wasn't expecting Nintendo to really hammer down, but I think if you look at Animal Crossing and the experience that we saw this year with it, Nintendo has really gone out of their way to hone in that they are the family friendly console. That is going to be the go-to for the family gaming experience. They've really tried to hone in on that point. And that's I think they've won that battle so far, because Sony and Microsoft have tried their bamboo best to do it, but there's something about it where I feel like, especially this year, you've seen Nintendo really hone in on that very well. And in addition to that, and I think you Orco, you hit on a good point on that, is they've proven that in terms of mobility and playing on the go, that there's this investment right now you're seeing from Microsoft, where they're putting all their bamboo in a basket, thinking that diversifying into cell phone and mobile devices is the way to go. But Nintendo still continues to show that there is still a place out there for an actual console to be mobile and to drive that interest. And I think that that's the other thing that Nintendo is just going to keep that staple, is no matter what kind of mobile integration the other two are going to do, I think Nintendo just absolutely has the market on a family-friendly mobile device that everybody's going to enjoy. So I'm excited to see them continue to hold that reins, and for how long, because I think that combination is the only combo in the next 10 years you're going to see, that having exclusive titles, which Nintendo very much is strong about keeping. That I think that model will stay successful, because they own that particular market. I don't know if that makes any sense, but that's at least been my perspective of it.
It makes a lot of sense, and I agree with that.
What's great about Nintendo is that they don't completely ditch a lot of their franchises. And sometimes it's like, it's good to know, if you buy a system, that you can expect to get a certain game. It's like, you buy a Nintendo stuff and it's like, obviously I'm gonna get a Zelda, I'm gonna get a Fire Emblem game, I'm gonna get Animal Crossing and stuff like that, which I think is a bit missing on the other platforms when it comes to Xbox or Sony, because they tend to ditch their franchises. They forego creating a library of games that would keep people coming back. Where you don't see it with Nintendo, but with the other consoles, you see people jumping between generations, just because it's like, well, this one looks cooler this time, so I'll get that one instead of that one, because there's nothing holding me to one platform.
Yeah, I can see that. I mean, Nintendo never outright canceled any franchises. They haven't brought back some of their franchises in years. Like F-Zero, which I would see, by the way. So Nintendo, if you ever listen to this, please, F-Zero, thank you.
Where my Metroid? Just want a Metroid.
Hey, at least they're working on that one.
That's true. Yeah. That is very true. That is very.
Return of Samus is great. Or Samus' Return.
Yeah, the 3DS remake that was it was a joy to play. I agree. Are we going to jump to the next topic, gentlemen, or do we still wanna have some points?
Yeah. Next topic.
Let's do it.
I think we're good. Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. Professor Panda, you're spearheading that one. Dreamhaven.
Excellent. Yes. So for those that maybe have not heard, the Blizzard co-founder Mike Morhaime actually is launching a new gaming endeavor that they're referring to as Dreamhaven, and they're bringing a lot of it, what it sounds like, the core talent, at least what put the foundation of Blizzard together into this project. And I'm very curious what we're going to see out of this, because it's an interesting time for them to try to, because a lot of people are referring to this as like a Blizzard 2.0, which is a very powerful statement to make, especially seeing how far Blizzard has come. So I'm very, very curious to see what we're going to see out of this. But it sounds like a lot of the core values that Blizzard started with, this has been a pipe dream, so to say, that that they've been wanting to try to like kick back off, but they've been trying to find the right time to do it. And I'm very interested to know what y'all think about that, because I think this could be a game changer, not just for the MMO setting, but for, you have your Origins, you have your Steams, you have those. This could be a very strong contender if done well.
Here's where I stand. Everything that competes with Blizzard is good. Because I would say Blizzard is kind of a mini monopoly within the gaming sphere at this point. And the other thing I would say is that Blizzard has lost their way, and you can see that on the Warcraft 3 Reforged, and they went completely insane, I would even say. So I think Mike Morhaime leaving and founding this studio is a great move. It's a great move for us gamers. Maybe even for Blizzard fans. Maybe we get to see a good Diablo for once again. I'm still salty about Diablo 3 Blizzard, and you will never change that. And yeah, I just want to. I mean, it means possibly more good games. What's not to like about it? So
it's great because I think Morhaime was one of the better people behind Blizzard at that level, at the CEO level. He was one of those people that still kept up with the community. He was spearheading a lot of the stuff that made World of Warcraft and the Warcraft brand in general great. This also signifies what we've probably been hearing, here and there, about the way Activision has been treating their subsidiaries. I'm not surprised to see Morhaime leave, and it's great. I think he's a cool figure for within game industry. Though I'm not sure that if when it comes to competing with WoW, yes, you're Mike Morhaime, but at the same time, WoW is an enormous brand, and whenever you see a studio and their first game is a MMO, those studios tend to crash and burn. So I'd like to see something, a more conservative, smaller project to see how that studio works and if they can pull it off. And, take it then after that project's done and dusted, you've done your projections and be like, okay, we can do this. And we have enough cushioning that if anything goes wrong, we're not going to disappear in like a year or, a couple of months. So I think there's a big apprehension about that. But yeah, I'm excited about the project. It could lead to great things. I think they just need to take it slow, and they have to go through steps as a new studio. Just because it's Mike Morhaime, it can't go straight towards enormous, multi-million projects.
I completely agree with both of you as well. And Val, I'm curious about your take on this as well, because I know as somebody that's very the world of kind of pseudo MMMs that's coming in now, or at least that's kind of revisiting, like such as Destiny 2. I'm very curious your thoughts on this as well, because that is very much there's still a market out there clearly, but it's Bam Bam, correct?
I mean, the more competition we get, the better. They're gonna try. They'll probably try, but I don't think anybody at this point can compete with Blizzard to the degree. I mean, you can't. So many other people have tried before to take down World of Warcraft when it was like 3-4 years old, and World of Warcraft is still like about what is it, about 6-7 million players, and it's how old is it? Is it like 14 years old or 15 years old? I don't think it's gonna be. No one's gonna take World of Warcraft down. Like there's no competition for World of Warcraft. I mean, I'm not like people. I mean, might be a bit of an unpopular opinion, but I don't think I like World of Warcraft, and I would love to have another game that competes with World of Warcraft. But so many have tried, everyone has failed. Right now, as of today, can last 14 years and keep having so many million players paying monthly to play the game.
I can see Final Fantasy XIV in that regard.
Because I would agree with that.
Final Fantasy XIV has been it had a really rocket launch. I was there for the beta for the original version of Final Fantasy XIV, and I played that. I was like, yeah, this is gonna fail. But the thing was, Square Enix didn't give up on the project. They invested, a truckload of money into it, but at the same time, because they believed in the project, so they were like, you take the L for that moment. You go back to the drawing board, and Realm Reborn is a fantastic MMO. I don't even like MMOs, but from what I've played of Final Fantasy XIV, that game's absolutely great. And there's a lot of players and a lot of YouTubers I follow. All of them play Final Fantasy XIV, and they have like their own communities surrounded around Final Fantasy XIV. So I can see Final Fantasy XIV going really long and steadily growing because they're still like getting new players, whereas WoW is hemorrhaging players. So I can see Final Fantasy XIV at some point becoming that name that stands next to WoW.
Yeah, I mean, I completely understand what you mean, and I hope the word like I always say, I hope the better other people do and can compete with other games and other developers, and the better it's gonna be for us because we're gonna get more games, we're gonna get better quality, we're gonna get variety. If you ask me, I mean, in my honest opinion, I don't think anybody can take like the example of World of Warcraft is the example of how to create a multi-million-dollar company, become the biggest gaming company in history, in my opinion. What Blizzard has created with just one game, no one else can, or no one has done up until now in this, and they have teamed up with Activision now, which we all know is super predatory, but they have the money, and they're
Right.
throwing money at Blizzard. Like, you want a game? You want to make a game like Overwatch? Go on, do it. You want to make Heroes of the Storm? Do it. They're throwing money at them. Like, do whatever you want. I mean, today
I mean,
there is not a single game.
I wouldn't say they throw money at it after they like fired a bunch of employees last year, but
I mean, Bobby Kotick needed a raise.
Like a bit of throwing money in regards of they're investing money on new games and new IPs. They're not stuck on doing one thing and one thing only. They are trying to be innovators. They're trying to create new IPs and create something that is new. I mean, to be honest, every single time Blizzard comes out with something new, I put very close attention to it because there's a good chance it's going to be really good. I mean, Overwatch has gone a bit stale with time, but I think the game was brilliant. It's been really good, isn't it?
Absolutely, and just to benchmark off that, because I think everybody made some very, very, very brotastic points there. Just to close on that, I would say one, Val, I think you're right in terms of this kind of just the money investment piece, because I think that's the big game changer right now. Every MMO that has come out since your Foundation games, your EverQuest 2, your Final Fantasy 14, the AR version, of course, with WoW. A lot of them didn't start with anywhere near the amount of money that a lot of these new and upcoming MMOs have. And as somebody, I mean, I've spent a lot of time playing MMOs over the years, and what I've seen is after your City of Heroes, City of Villains era, every new MMO that's come out, they keep getting bamboozled because what ends up happening is there's this startup expectation that you have to WoW and what Final Fantasy 14 have done over a decade or more. The expectation is these games that are coming out that are quote unquote WoW killers, they have to come out of the gate swinging with something that competes with that. And it's such an unfair expectation, but that's the nature of the audience. And as you mentioned, Bam, is the, you with your Final Fantasy 14s and your WoWs, if you look at anybody even streaming the games, there's a core audience that's being built for that particular title. And that's powerful. And the problem is, like, you look at New World, you look at Black Desert Online, you look at all these titles that are coming out and trying to like innovate this market, the ability to innovate without having an incredible amount of fat loot, so to say. It's impossible and almost improbable. So I think that's an important point. And I think Orco, I want to hit on a point you mentioned about the experience and what kind of the corporate decisions that went down last year. I think that is a point that Amy and Mike are trying to really hone in on, because they did an interview with Washington Post, and one thing that they were really focusing on there is like, oh, we remember when we were at Blizzard, like we were a family, we did this together. Like they're really honing in on this point of like when they were a part of Blizzard, that it was this family perspective, where now when you think of Blizzard, all you can think of is a corporate entity. You know what I mean? So I think that's a very good point. I think that's going to be an area that they're going to be able to leverage very well when they come to the table.
Another thing I want to bring up in terms of MMO and what a lot of people always forget, there's another very, very successful MMO actually that has been going on for quite a long time, and it's called Path of Exile.
Yeah. Yeah.
Just to put that out there, because I don't think World of Warcraft is that one juggernaut entity that it used to be. There is other long-running MMOs, not as long-running and not with the same history. But I think that MMOs are diversified enough at this point that we can say for sure there are some not WoW killers, but WoW competitors.
Exactly.
Yep.
I think that's a
Yeah.
better statement.
Yeah.
Yeah, WoW's not anymore the only game in town.
Yeah, definitely not.
It's never been the only game in town in like
for a while it
ever,
was.
because there is
For a while it
there
was,
is-
definitely.
It's always been competitors. What what I'm trying to say is like all the new games that we keep getting, and the games that have been, like quote unquote what Panda said, the WoW killers. The problem is for all these games, we actually discussed this kind of similar thing last week. They all try to beat World of Warcraft at their own game,
Yeah.
and no one does World of Warcraft better than World of Warcraft.
Exactly.
There is no other game that is going to beat World of Warcraft at their own game. They know the ins and outs of the community, of the game, and what people expect of the game, and they keep trying new things and stuff and whatnot. And there is no way you can beat them at their own game. It's just they've been around for too long, and they know what they have to do.
Yeah, that's the thing, because when you look at the popular games aside from WoW, it's games that are different. There are games that I wish were more popular because they're so different. Like I don't know if any of you played the Secret World.
Oh yes. Holy bamboo, that was an experience.
that was actually a pretty cool MMO. It's still kind of going on, but I'd consider it probably comatose at this point.
Right.
But it was a cool MMO that combined like Lovecraftian horror with MMO, and there was puzzles in the game, and there was like almost a text adventure stuff in it, and it was a really different, cool experience that essentially failed just because you also have to think, when you're a company, you have to think on returns of investment, and they went too hard on it. You were paying $60 for the game, and you also have to pay monthly. And at that point, I think even now you kind of have to decide: are you doing one or the other, or how are you pricing the game?
Yeah,
it's a brotastic point.
Yeah, I think you said the monthly payments is just. I think people have accepted to have it on World of Warcraft, but somehow no one accepts that option anywhere else, isn't it, Bam Bam?
Yeah, the thing is also people are so used to having, as you said, people are used to paying for WoW, and it's like, I'm paying for WoW, and they don't think about it. But if any other MMO comes out and is asking for a monthly fee, it's like, what the hell's that?
Yeah,
it's like it's 2020. What are you asking me to pay monthly?
But
what are you smoking?
And the same professional that is yelling the loudest is currently paying $15 a month to play WoW or Final Fantasy 14 because it's just it's seen as such a different a different perspective on those two because you're paying for nostalgia with the other two versus something new that's coming out. That is such a good point, and I agree with it completely.
Yeah, because at that, like, after, I have friends that have been playing WoW for like essentially for the entire lifespan of the game, like 15 years almost. And to them, it's like paying the phone bill. But
exactly.
They will get skittish if I'm like, oh, there's a cool game, you should maybe try it. And it's like, oh, but you have to pay monthly.
Well, that's what you've been doing
serious,
for the
dude?
past 14 years, my friend. Well, with that said, the last thing I want to say about this is, my weekly plug of Destiny. So,
there it is. I love it. I love it.
That's why I think Bungie is another one of the, if not, in my opinion, the most creative right after Blizzard. And I think they're gonna do, and they will do a lot of great things in the future. I think Bungie is here to stay, and it's not gonna go anywhere. That's where Bungie came and said, okay, so World of Warcraft is an amazing concept. Why don't we do something like that, but shooting aliens on a first-person shooter? It came out. It had a rocky start, but to the point where Destiny 1 ended, it was really good. And the point where Destiny 2 is right now is really good. And they have implemented World of Warcraft in a complete different concept. And they have adapted everything. So it's a complete different game. You play the strengths of that game and you use them something on somewhere else, on something completely different. That's how it should be.
And I want to benchmark off that, Val, just really quick to say that I think you hit the bamboo just on the head completely because the thing that I just the issue I initially had with Destiny 2 when I first started playing it was okay, I understand what they're trying to do, but it didn't feel like it stood on its own two panda paws, right? But now what they've been doing recently, seeing the uniqueness they're bringing to the table, that they are really taking steps to show like there's a truly unique story there. There's a unique experience. And I love seeing what Destiny 2 has become versus where it initially started. And I understand there's a lot of folks that really enjoyed from the get-go Destiny 2, and that's fine, but just it's something that it didn't initially appeal to me completely. At least it didn't keep my attention. But seeing what they're doing now, the marketing they're doing with it. They understand their audience so much more than they did, I think, when it first came out. And they're really honing in on attracting new people to it because they're showing that there is a unique element that makes them stand out. So Val, I think that is a very good point, and agree with you completely on that.
Yeah, it's that's kind of like, to what I said before is, beating World of Warcraft at the same game but with a different concept.
I mean,
they're not trying to do the same thing. They're trying to do something a tiny bit that, changes the concept of what they do. It still applies the same ideals. It does something different, and obviously you can beat those kind of games with the same concept, different different execution.
Path of Exile, to go back to that one, didn't even try to beat Blizzard at their own game. Well, they kind of did, actually. They made a superior Diablo. But,
like,
yeah. It just took Diablo and ran with it. Okay, let's forget about that point.
I was like, well.
I mean, Blizzard forgot themselves, so...
Yeah.
No, but I mean, obviously, every single time, like I said, Blizzard, when it's coming out with something new, I always pay, pretty close attention. They are massive. You can't deny that Blizzard creates a school. Let's call it that way. They create every single game. They create a lot of people trying to replicate.
Yeah.
And they are successful at what they do. And they take their time. They don't really usually. They don't rush their own games. They don't rush their own expansions. They take their time. They get it right. And the games that usually Blizzard releases are very well polished compared to what we see nowadays on most of the games. It's not,
Agreed.
a complete wreckfest. So, in that regard, I think, Blizzard is an amazing company. That's what I said, in comparison to Bungie. It's not just, a plug of Destiny, but Bungie, I see Bungie as the same way as Blizzard in that regard. They work really hard on their IPs and they want to get something right. I'm really looking forward to Martes, to the new IP from Bungie, because I bet they're gonna come out with something completely different.
Agreed. I think a fantastic point. Was there any other thoughts on this one before Orko? I pass the bamboo back to you.
Yeah. No, not from my side.
I'm good.
Yeah. Then I pass the bamboo right back to Bum Bum, who wants to talk about a game called BPM. And I want to talk about it as well, but
Game of
you,
the year.
you,
That's
you,
it.
you, you have
End
you
of the
have the
conversation.
reign. You have the reign.
Oh, BPM, aka bullets per minute, is a first-person shooter that's also a roguelike and a rhythm-based game where you take on the role of a Nordic Valkyrie, and you shoot your way through the different realms that the game throws at you, and every single action aside from jumping and moving around is based on the beat of the music. So you shoot to the beat, you reload to the beat, you double jump to the beat, you dash to the beat, and all the enemy actions aside from moving, obviously, is also tied to the beat. So they shoot projectiles, they attack, they use their abilities on beat as well. And it's a really cool game that's obviously very low budget. I think it's just 2 guys that made it, and a lot of the assets are assets from, I think, Paladins. So it's very low budget, but they try to play around with it. There's technically 4, but you play through 3 full realms, and then there is a fourth realm. For a fourth realm is essentially just a boss level. Each has its own color. It's red, yellow, green, and then gray and red, and it's heavily saturated. So essentially, it covers up any inconsistencies in style or shading or coloring that would arise if they didn't have any sort of color filter over it.
Yeah.
So that's how they cover the low budget. Essentially, they try to turn it into a style. But aside from that, like style inconsistency, and obviously, those guys were more focused on making a functionally rigid game, and that's what BPM is. BPM, when you get down to it, you look past the aesthetics, the game works, and it works beautifully. I'm a big fan of music games, and this is right up my alley. Like, you slip into it, you get your metal soundtrack, and you get to blast demons and big bugs to the beat. It is a roguelike with some procedural unlocks. There is 2 vendors that you can visit. What's his name? Chughawk. There's this big chicken that sells you items, and there is big metal chicken that sells you weapons. And each time you spend your coins that you earn from chests or from enemies at their shops, they unlock more options in their shops. So at the start, I think you can choose just from 3 items at the chicken, but as you spend more money, you will unlock different stands. So I think get up to 7 items available that you can buy. Same for the big robotic chicken with weapons. And yeah, shooting, as I said, is on the beat. There's also some. It was confusing at first because you can reload, and some weapons pump, like shotguns pump on half beat. So essentially, I have to hit the beat and then hit the half beat between the next beat. So it's sometimes some weapons take a bit time of getting used to. There's also unlockable skills. You can use. There is some spells that are either attack or defense. There's shield that you can pop on beat, and it will either just defend you against a projectile, or it will actually reflect a projectile back to the enemy. There is a couple of ultimate skills that you can unlock from libraries. So there's different rooms you can visit. What else? You can Orco, if you wanna pinch in.
No, go ahead. You get this.
Okay. When it comes to each level, each realm is divided into 2-level chunks. So there is 6 levels, and then 7th one is a boss level. And each 2 levels is ended with a boss battle, and each boss is a bit different. I think that's where the paladins assets come in, because some of them are obviously taken from paladins, but each boss has their own mechanic. They also act as every other enemy, and your weapons, they act on beat. So some of them will have area of effects, attacks that you have to dodge on beat, either by jumping, dashing to one side, stuff like that, or knocking them out of that animation. I think the toughest boss I've found was the first boss, because you're still getting to grips with the game, and he has this attack that shows you on your crosshair. You have your essentially a zone that tells you if this crosshair comes together, that's where the beat happens. So you will see
Oh.
on one side, you will see there's an indicator, and it shows you, oh, you have to, on that beat, you have to dodge to that side to dodge the attack and not get hurt. So I think at the start, there is a lot of you have to chew through to fully understand how the game's working.
Yes.
But
it doesn't hold your hand in any way. You
No,
just have
not
to
at all.
observe and learn.
Yeah, even like the items that you can pick up are like, they just tell you, oh, explode on landing, or there's one. It's called is these shoes with, or boots with wings, and it's like we'll let you fly, but they don't tell you that it's not really flying, but you get infinite double jump, so you can always jump in midair as long as you keep the air jumps on beat. So you can essentially coast through levels. There's sometimes rooms that you enter will have hidden areas that you have to get through use of either the double jump, dashing, air dashing, and sometimes you will not be able to get to them unless you have a rocket launcher to rocket jump, or you have the jumping boots to infinitely jump in midair. There's also cool stuff that you essentially find on your own. Like I found that if I, jump once, dash midair, do another jump midair on beat as a double jump, and you can dash again. So that was cool to find out, because then it's like it gives you more mobility, and it makes you more confident in reaching some of these areas, because okay, now I know what I'm doing and how the movement works, and it turns this into, in a way, it feels a lot like Doom 2016 in the regards of the pacing of the combat. In Doom 2016, it almost feels like the actions on the beat with the music. Here is just the game is exactly on beat.
But then again, they also, when it comes to Doom 16, they compose the music in a way that it seems like it reacts, or they place
Yeah.
it in a way.
Yeah.
It seems like it reacts to what you are doing. This is the way around. The other way around, like you pointed out, you have to react to the music. The music isn't reacting to you.
Yeah, so this was like the two ways to take it, and and what makes a good feeling action is also like how it makes you feel, So
yeah, definitely.
BPM, I think excels at it. Yes, it has rough edges, mainly the presentation. Sometimes I feel the animations don't fully click with the beat, but you can go off of auditory signaling. So when you reload your weapon, it will always click if you're right on the, beat, half beat, or if some weapon has a longer animation, it's like beat, half beat, beat. It always will click, and it feels great. Yeah, just one thing that I think was a cool detail is when you finish off a boss, to fully kill it, essentially you shoot it, and as you shoot it, it doesn't tie it to a beat, but it has this musical sting that escalates as you shoot it, and it then just explodes.
Yeah, so the only thing I personally would throw at BPM as a point of criticism is the music feels kind of weak.
Yes.
I wouldn't. I mean, I don't expect them to have what was the name of the Doom composer?
Mick Gordon.
Mick Gordon.
Oof.
Yeah, but it would be nice if they had him.
Yeah, I think
Because-
that's. Sorry, I was just gonna say because that's I think the issue with a lot of music games. You can't have two-layered music, otherwise you can lose the track of the beat, or the beat switches mid verse or mid bar, and that can throw you off from the action, and you will lose the fluidity if you tie your actions to the beat, because suddenly you're like. Imagine you're going like it's like 110 beats per minute, and then for a section it's like 200.
Yeah,
because
I
that's
know.
the technical section where the drummer just goes nuts.
Interesting.
Yeah, that's I can see the issue there, but I think Mick Gordon would have composed the music that this
Oh,
wouldn't
yeah.
happened. But
Yeah,
I just like I said, I think the music they have is really weak sauce.
yeah. I think
And-
it comes down again to the budget.
Yeah, to the budget, I know. I think they just took Magic's Music Maker or Fruity Loops and threw something together.
Mhm.
I don't want to knock him too hard for it, but that's the one thing I think they need to work on, because if you want to have one thing in your music game, it's good music.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. But the thing is also they sell the game for like 12 quid. so-
Yeah, I know they do, but it's still. I mean,
yeah,
from my experience, I've played it for like 3 hours now, or 2.5 hours. I know that's not a lot, but it's probably enough to get a grasp of what a game is about and how it works, especially in a roguelike, since you will restart a lot. I would still fully recommend this game to anyone who likes shooters, who likes first-person shooters, because it's just so different, unique, and well made, despite being essentially made on a bag of rice, probably. That you just can't find an experience unlike it at the moment.
considering the price point, I wouldn't mind that if at some point they release either a new level pack or hell a music pack. It's like give me a choice of different tracks for the levels.
How about they do both?
Yeah, hell
Yeah.
yeah. There is also you can afterwards you can do official challenge runs. They have a challenge section, and essentially at the end it's like if we can afford it, we'll make more.
Interesting.
Yeah, so I think they are well aware that essentially they made a niche game, but they wanted to make it. I think this BPM screams this is a game we wanted to make.
Yes. I think they played Doom 2016 and said, "Yeah, we want to make this, but we want to make a Guitar Hero instead."
Yeah,
Well,
it's like let's make it a DDR.
Yeah.
Well, I was gonna say three things that jump out at me. I'm sorry, okay, don't let me interrupt you. My apologies. All right, with three things that jump out at me about this is I purposely didn't look at this before we jumped into this because I wanted to get your kind of your perspective on it. But looking at it now, one, if you had told me that somebody was going to take Crypt of the Necrodancer and combine it with Doom, I would be concerned, but I'd be willing to give it a try. And this seems like it did it very well. This looks like a brotastic time. Two, I think I think after playing there's a game that this reminds me of is something called Gunfire Reborn. And I wasn't sure how the FPS roguelite style would work, but after that experience, I think there is a strong demand for it, and I think that this is something that could be a very strong contender based on current feedback. It's very positive. And then three, what I would love to see with this game, and I realize that it's very difficult for something, especially that's a not necessarily a startup, but kind of that doesn't have a lot of the power behind it, like a lot of the newer titles. I would love to see this do something similar to Hyperscape or there's a game that I was made aware of recently, which is the Immortal Redneck, where when you stream those games, there's a huge overlay that those watching can interact and make decisions on. And what I would love to see is like when somebody streams this game, the audience has the ability to influence what abilities you can and can't use, what weapons are available. They can make the beat more difficult. Like, for example, they could increase or lower the speed of the music, so that adds unexpected challenges as you play. And I think that there's such a just a brotastic element that this game could benchmark very well from like a stream environment perspective. This is something I've put on the radar for me from just what you were saying, Bam Bam. It sounds like something I am very interested in checking out now. It looks like a fun time.
Oh, it is. I really want BPM to do well because I think those guys can put that success into extra work on either BPM or its successor and make it a full-fledged title with all the bells and whistles. And hell, maybe at the end we'll get like a Mick Gordon soundtrack in the next one. Or we can there is Darren Baranowski or Family Jewels if we're talking Crypt of the Necrodancer.
Yeah, exactly. Darren Baranowski and Family Jewels would be very welcome as well. They're both great composers.
Agreed.
I mean, it's not like I just said Mick Gordon would be the obvious choice for a project like this in my mind, but there are other great composers as well. So yeah. I mean, they for Christ's sake, they could call on Jasper Byrne.
Oh yeah, Jasper Byrne. Oh no, Jasper Byrne. What he needs to do first is do another Lone Survivor. Then he can do soundtracks.
Okay, Val, you said Game of the Year. How?
It's Game of the Year, easy. There is no question about it. This game, actually, I would say I've been, really, really keen on Ghost of Tsushima to be Game of the Year. I think this game has come out and beaten that game out like easy. Like the concept of the game is amazing. What you forgot to mention, Bam Bam, is that you also have the option to, if you have issues with the, being, shooting at the rhythm of the beat or jumping or reloading, there is an option within the game that helps you with it. So you can click as many times as you want, and then the game automatically will adapt your shooting and your reloading to the beat.
Yeah, I forgot about the option because I know it's there, but I don't kind of.
That's obviously for people
I get it.
like
It's
me,
like it's for a French use. If you have either issues or you're completely tone deaf, and I fully understand that.
Yeah, I mean, for people like me that have no sense of rhythm at all, and those things come very handy. It just makes it easier for you. It doesn't do the job for you. You just have to click, and it will adapt your clicking to basically to the rhythm. So it's just the game, like you guys said, it's made by 2 people only, and it's a quarter of the price of a full-on, game right now. Plays well. It feels good. The shooting is amazing. It's a brand. It's just a concept that mixes music with shooting, and it makes your shooting become the music. I think it's just a concept that it's just brilliant. I think it's just brilliant, and I hope, please, Microsoft, if you're listening to this, please buy that studio. Buy that studio and give them music. Like, give them Marty
Give
O'Donnell.
them freaking Mick Gordon. You can do it.
Marty O'Donnell. Give them Marty O'Donnell, the composer of Halo. Man, that game will become the greatest game ever. Honestly, it just got that feeling to me since the first moment when I tried it. I was like, wow, I was blown away by how good it feels. It's just different, and it feels good, and it's shooting, and it's music. And yeah, it's like it can become a tiny bit repetitive after a while, because obviously the variety of the music and the levels and everything is very much the same. And it becomes easy mode once you get the heavy machine gun, which is basically, you can shoot for days at the door and no one comes out. If they can polish this game and add stuff to the game in the future, I don't know what plans they have for the game or not. If they can get someone to invest into this game, any publisher or something, I can see a very bright future, because the concept is there and it's something new. It's something I haven't seen before, and it's something that feels fresh while doing the same thing I've been doing for the last 20 years. It is great, and it deserves to be Game of the Year for the originality, the idea, what they came out with, something that everyone has been doing for so long and no one thought of putting music into shooting.
Well, I would say Doom 2016 did it more in a passive way, because Doom 16 is widely known for its amazing use of music. But like I said, it's more on the passive way, so the music is reactive to you, but BPM turns it on its head and says you're reactive to the music. That's the
exactly.
key here.
You are the music.
Yeah.
In BPM. That's what I like about it. You are the music. You create the rhythm, so you feel like you are creating music, and at the same time you're shooting, aliens. So it's kind of like, it feels good.
Yeah.
It feels great, to be honest.
I mean, in a way, I think one of the first games where I really noticed this, and it was really super well implemented, was Metal Gear Rising: Revengeance.
Yeah,
definitely.
definitely.
Where the better you do, the music gets louder, and if you're doing super well, the vocals kick in, and it makes you feel like such a badass. There's the famous moment where you're fighting this big robot Metal Gear Ray at the start. You stop its attack with your sword, and at the top of their lungs, the singer goes "Rules of Nature," and it's one of the best moments in video games ever.
Yes, it is. I mean, my favorite fight ever, or one of my favorite boss fights of all time, is still Monsoon.
Oh yeah,
Because the lyrics and the concept of the boss in a game that's all about slicing stuff is so insane.
Oh yeah, listen to it. The song is called "Stains of Time."
Yeah,
it's great.
It's and once you get him down to like a quarter, the lyrics kick in and you feel so pumped up, and it's like, I'm gonna slice your part no matter how dodgy you are.
Yeah. Now I just want me replaying Metal Gear Rising.
Because what this boss can do, just for the audience and everyone who hasn't played the game, Monsoon. So Metal Gear Rising is basically all about slicing. You have this mechanic where you go into a bullet time essentially and slice people up into really tiny bits. And Monsoon, you can't do that because he can't split up into tiny parts. Seemingly, Lord Val left us. He said he wouldn't have enough time for the entire podcast, but that's okay. We are continuing here without him. Yeah, where were we? Oh yeah, exactly. I was explaining Monsoon. So basically, he can split off into tiny parts himself, and yeah, try to slice that. And I'll be like, okay. It's a great concept for a boss. And also, Professor, if you never played that game, you definitely should. It's like
I have not, so I will put it on my radar.
Everyone should play Metal Gear Rising.
Yeah, it's so if we talk about our video games art, I would put Metal Gear Rising on a pedestal.
Yes,
that's coming from Orco too. That's a bamboo filled.
And right,
put it on the list.
And here is why. So people understand where I'm coming from. I don't consider video games where you strip off like the gameplay and it would still work in a different medium art, because that's not what makes video games great. Like, if people always tout a game with a great story and the gameplay is totally middling, that's not art to me, because it doesn't show what video games are capable of. Metal Gear Rising doesn't work without the gameplay. It just doesn't.
It has also one of the best lines is "Turn off my pain inhibitors."
Why? Turn off my pain inhibitors. I mean, it's so over the top. It's so ridiculous. If you made that into a movie, it would have like a 0 on Rotten Tomatoes, but in the game it works flawlessly.
Yeah, it's imagine that you have the Fast and Furious franchise, but the first one you see is Furious 8. That's Metal Gear Rising.
Yeah, exactly.
Oh wow. Okay,
Yeah.
that's a fantastic point. And Orca, I want to make a comment on that because I haven't thought about it that way before, but that's actually that's a really interesting perspective. That could a game survive without the gameplay?
Yes.
As a defining measure for how well a game is. That's a very interesting perspective. I like it. I wanted to comment on that.
Yeah, that's I'm just bringing up another game that has been touted very much by the press as art, which would be Last of Us. Doesn't matter which part we're talking about, but here is my point. For me, okay, if you like the game, go for it, whatever. But if you strip away the gameplay and release the stories as a book, it would still work.
Yes, it's called The Road.
but
Because
you get my point, right?
Yeah,
It's
I
like-
mean, I made that point months ago when we were talking, right?
Yeah,
about...
I know, and it's one of the best points you ever made. So that's why I just sold it.
Yeah, like wholesale.
No, but it's actually very good. And more people should probably have that point. And this is where I also tout now that BPM is art, because if you strip away the gameplay, it's nothing. And that's what it's all about.
Yeah, because the core of the game makes it what it is. Whereas even like a passingly, story-driven roguelike, you can just make it like a 5-page comic book and it still makes sense. But BPM makes only sense when you're actually playing it. As some of the best games we're talking about, like when I think like Metal Gear Solid games, we're like, oh, those are just like movies with all the long cutscenes. But you strip away the cutscenes, the game is still great.
It still has solid mechanics, and I would say Metal Gear Solid 3 is probably one of the best games ever made.
Oh, for sure.
Now that one I have played. That was a fantastic time. I loved it.
That's so good. This game is so good. Oh my god, I want to play it now. Why did you have to bring it up?
I mean, you done the goof.
What I love about Metal Gear Solid games, it's all the hidden mechanics and all the stuff you can do. Like Metal Gear Solid 3, you don't even need to use a gun. You can just capture animals and throw them at enemies, and that's like legitimate way how to get through the game.
I mean, the best part is like if you remember, or one of the more known instances of how good this game actually is, or how creative this game actually became with its mechanics, is one of the bosses, the End, the old guy in the wheelchair. You can when you see him the first time, you can shoot him with a sniper rifle, so the boss fight just doesn't happen. Or, if you're at the boss fight, you just wait for 2 weeks and he dies because he's old.
Or the main bad guy, you can find out, oh, he's afraid of rats, so you capture a couple of rats for the boss fight and just throw them at him, and they will stun him, and you can just, kill him while he's preoccupied running away from rats.
Oh my bamboo! Oh, that is a interesting remake of Ratatouille. Holy bamboo!
Yeah, except here the rat gets fried.
I got those poor rats. Yeah, but that's what makes games just very interesting. It's this outlandish stuff you cannot pull anywhere else.
Yeah, I think it's other forms of media and art are very passive. For games, it's not about it's the interaction between how the game affects you and how you affect the game, and that's what makes them very unique.
Yeah, and imagine being a developer and being so smart that you not only bring up the weakness of a boss, but you can also effectively let the player exploit it with the rats and Volgin. And that's also what constitutes good game design, in my eyes. So that we talked about that as well.
Yeah, no, what makes those games great is that there are people like, Kojima and his team, when they were making Metal Gear Solid, is they don't throw away outlandish ideas because it's it's quote unquote silly. Because in the end, it's like it's how you present it. So yeah, it's like I can say, oh, you throw rats at him and he freaks out, but at the same time, in a way, it kind of makes sense. People are afraid of certain kinds of animals, no matter how silly it is. You have people having arachnophobia attacks from a small spider in their home,
Yeah.
crawling up the walls. So it makes sense in a way, but yeah, when you talk about it, it's silly. And I think that's how great game design emerges. Is okay. This is gonna sound silly, but what if we did this? And I think that's the same way how the music idea for Metal Gear Rising emerged. It's like this feels a bit dry if we have just like like a long instrumental backing track. Let's make the track supplement the gameplay and make it make the player feel like they're actually achieving something, that they're getting better, they're getting ahead by essentially the soundtrack tuning them on.
Yeah, exactly. Obviously, video games are still a product of very many things like
Yeah.
sound design, visuals, etc. But if you combine that all together into one compiling aspect of gameplay,
Yeah.
then you created art, to get back to where we started.
Mm-hmm. No, yeah. Like even movies are conglomeration of
Yeah.
many art disciplines. So.
Yeah, exactly. You basically, and just gaming adds a fourth dimension, and it's the gameplay essentially. And that's why I
And that was
always say,
BPM.
yeah, and that was BPM exactly. We drifted off from Valkyries shooting on beats to what is art. I love the show.
That's a brotastic point.
Yeah. Yeah. Okay, we have one last item on the list, Bum Bum, and I would like you to present it again because I know nothing about it except what you told me. So, here you go.
Welcome to Inertial Drift. It's another small indie game made by, I think it's a UK studio actually, and it's a racing game. It's an arcade racing game that's focused solely on drifting and taking the perfect line. Each car is completely different. I'd liken those cars more towards fighting game characters because each reacts differently, each enters the drift differently, each will have a different stability in the drift and how they react to you adjusting the drifting angle, and also the speeds they can take through the corners, and some other minor effects, like there is a car that can that does better off-road than actually on-road. It's an arcade racing game that eliminates every other control aside from gas, brake, and then steering. And steering is split between the left and right stick. Left stick controls your position in the lane, meaning you control how you hit how you enter the corner, how you hit the apex, and how you hit the exit. And the right stick controls your angle. Each car is different in a way, say how the gas input interacts with your adjusting the angle, and then another car will have maybe similar interaction between gas and angle, but will act differently based on you or drifting angle, how you adjust the position in the lane. So there's a lot of depth to it, and the game can be daunting at first, I think, because it's this completely alien control scheme from any other racing game I've ever played. But it feels once you get to it, it's kind of like getting the right line through a level in Mirror's Edge, where one obstacle, one corner flows from the other, and you know how to adjust, how to perfectly position your car so you can get the right angle and the right speed through that next corner, and essentially beat either the time trial or the AI or someone in a multiplayer. There is surprisingly, I didn't expect for such a small game to have a good number of cars that each act differently. It's fun to go through the story campaigns. You can play as one of 4 characters, and as you go through the campaign, you battle different characters in either races, time trials, or ghost battles, and you unlock their cars. So I think you start at like 4 cars, and you end up with, I think, almost a dozen cars that each are completely different in how they handle. As I said, the difficulty is a bit daunting, so I think some of the challenges are a bit too much because they expect you essentially to take the perfect lap. They will not have you make a single mistake, and if you make that mistake, you essentially can just restart. And some of these challenges can be a 5-minute plus long races.
It sounds really good. Just to point something out, which occurred to me again. It's a great point always to make. I just checked the meta score of both BPM and Inertial Drift. Both are around a 75. And what I find curious, the Steam score or the user score is like a 9 out of 10.
I was going to say that, yes, as well as the Steam scores are very impressive.
Yeah, and here's the kicker. I am at this point where I listen rather to the Steam score than the critic score. Definitely.
Yeah, I fully agree.
Because as cynical as the Steam audience can be, they at least tell you their true mind.
Yes. The Rockstar is very aware.
But it sounds actually like a really good racing game, something I would also want to play, so I'm gonna put that on my wish list.
Like, I think anyone that enjoyed either Ridge Racer or something like that in the past, I think they're gonna really enjoy Inertial Drift. If you're like a straight-laced, I only play sim racers, this is not really for you. I don't think this is something you'll enjoy. But if you're up for some arcade fun, that's tough. The game can be really tough at times, but it also gives you enough progress and get better. So in that point, it takes a bit of investment of time to get good, but once you're good, you get to this like Zen state where you can just plow through the races and look at how you're driving, and it just looks cool.
Yeah, that sounds like my racing game. The last racing game I really enjoyed was Blur, and that's a bit ago, I guess.
Where have you gone, Blur?
Into the world of Activision, never to be seen again, because Activision hates us all.
I'm gonna say something. Blur is the best racing game ever.
That's a bold statement.
It's one of my absolute favorites. Like, the only reason I probably still have like a PS3 out is so I can pop in Blur and play it.
I think I have it on PC.
I have it too on PC. It's borked. It doesn't work properly, which is sad. Because I tried to play it, and the thing with Blur is like you get halfway through a race, and then the frame rate just tanks.
And they never fixed it, right?
No.
Because it's Activision.
Pretty sure that bug has been in there since release. It's been taken off of Steam anyway. It's not even on Steam anymore.
I mean, I still should have it in my library.
Yeah, it's like if you had it, it's in your library, but you can't buy it anymore on Steam.
Yeah, because they didn't want to extend the music license and stuff, so whatever.
Yeah.
I don't know. It's Activision. They are just like, games are stupid. We just want money.
Activision's a black hole of gaming.
Yeah. I still like their reaction when they released the Crash Bandicoot trilogy remaster, and we're like, "Oh, we're surprised at how well this is performing." Yeah, no way it performs well when you give people something they asked for years.
Yeah,
it's magic, right?
What a baffling dilemma. How did we do that?
Holy bamboo.
How did this happen? Video game magic.
I will say on this Inertial Drift, I'm looking at it, and it looks like something that I would get incredibly bamboozled by. Like I definitely can see the learning curve that like once I think it would be very much a Dark Souls style experience that once you got the foundation down, your grits and gravy. I do have a question though. Is there a like most on the rails for the entire game? Because because that's very much how I would probably play this game. It's like, yeah, I definitely know what I'm doing, and then I just skid against the the rails the entire time because I think I would get very bamboozled by this. But it looks like it's a very fun experience. It's got a pretty decent learning curve to it. But Ooh, it looks a little intimidating.
Yeah, especially once you get to the faster cars, because the faster cars essentially sacrifice handling and the sensitivity for cornering for extra speed. So right now I'm doing the hardest campaign, or they call it extra crispy for some reason. The toughest difficulty.
Extra crispy. What?
Hey,
Don't ask me,
where do you know this difficulty from? Come on, Bam Bam, you know it. I will take your gamer card away if you do not know where extra crispy was the highest difficulty.
I'm thinking, was it a shooter, right?
I will freaking take your gamer card away, Bam Bam.
I mean, you can take it away.
Yeah,
Okay.
yeah, you hand it in after this podcast. It's blood. It's blood, my friend.
I'm gonna confess something. I played like 2 hours of Blood so far in my entire life, and I think that was like
you did
years
what?
ago.
It's Doom 2 also. Doom 2 also had an extra crispy difficulty.
Did it?
Did
It
it?
did.
Oh.
Then it was a reference to Doom. I thought it was.
Okay, Orco, you can lose the gamer card with me. Come on.
I'm not trying to be that panda, but I was like, technically.
But the highest difficulty is Nightmare. So, I won. I don't know.
But yeah, I mean, then like that game, Inertial Drift at that difficulty turns brutal. That's the point where the game goes like, oh, you didn't take a completely pixel perfect line through that corner. Well, screw you, you lost.
Yeah, no.
It sounds like my type of game. How much is it? I'm gonna look it up right now.
It's probably the same price as BPM, maybe a little bit more. It's again a really super small game.
I have like it's 20. I have like 40 in my pocket, 40 euros. So that would net me a good racing game and some fan service. I'm okay with that. I'm gonna buy Senran Kakura and this one. That's actually a good idea.
You sure you should spend your retirement on video games?
I mean, whatever. I don't plan on retiring anything. I just want
Good
big
answer.
boobies and fast. I want big boobies and fast cars. I need more money, so please fund my streaming endeavor.
Go to Patreon.
That's what you get for helping the Patreon. It's like you help Orco get boobies and fast cars.
Yeah,
Apparently.
exactly.
The Dan Blizzarian lifestyle.
Yeah.
Holy bamboo! Oh, that's funny.
Yeah, but yeah, I would definitely recommend Inertial Drift. It's one of the best arcade racing games I've played in ages.
But the true question is it better than Blur?
No, nothing's better than Blur. You know, I have a small altar that I just worship Blur at every night.
Right next to your MGS altar and Resident Evil altar, right?
Yes. No, those require sacrifices.
Okay.
Blur is gone already, so I don't have to keep it going.
Okay. What do you sacrifice to Resident Evil? No, let's not go there. Is this a family-friendly podcast after all? No swearing policy.
Well, I go around and collect firstborn.
Don't worry, you're both fine. Just because I'm here, you're good. Worst case scenario, if you need it, we don't know what the we're doing, so I got you covered. I got you, buddy.
I gotta find out how I can funnel my stream deck through my headphones then, because you probably use a stream deck for that.
Absolutely, it's. I'm more than happy to give you the details after we wrap up here.
Yeah. Okay. So, gentlemen, do we have something we still want to talk about? Or is that it? I think we talked about Inertial Drift because nobody except you played it, Bum Bum. That's the thing.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure I'm the only person on the planet.
Nobody in this podcast. That's what I'm saying.
Yeah, I know.
There's
It-
1,100 reviews of the game, and all of them are from Bam Bam. I don't understand.
he made
I have a Chinese hacker farm.
yeah, I just wanted to say he made Russian bots and went into it to just prop up the game. Oh my
I mean,
god.
I can't speak Russian. I can speak Chinese, so you know.
There we go.
Как дела, товарищ? Говорю по-русски.
Wopuchwe.
Yeah, okay.
Wochwe junko hwasho.
I only heard Guelo.
I didn't even say Quelo.
That's still the only thing I heard. All right. If there's nothing else, then I think we wrap up. I'm just installing Inertial Drift and might play it on stream today just for funsies.
There you go.
Because today's Saturday and I do what I want on Saturday. I still have Star Renegades to show, so there's a lot to go on today. Bum Bum can laugh at me trying to play Inertial Drift.
Oh, I'm gonna laugh so hard.
All right.
I do appreciate y'all inviting me on. This was a brotastic time.
I mean,
It
you
was
can
cool to have you.
you can come anytime on. I have a fourth bot open.
Well, thank you for that. I will definitely we'll talk after this because I had a this is the first time I've done anything like this and I had a bamboo filled time and
Awesome.
hopefully I wasn't too much of a distraction here. So
No, absolutely not. So this has been the 24th episode of the Orcocast, a very special episode since we had our first guest on the panel, which I am very proud of, and it was even one of the greatest streaming personalities ever. It was Professor Panda. Professor Panda, tell the audience where it can find you.
Absolutely. So the Panda Nation, our community, we are on Twitch. So it's twitch.tv/professor_panda. Also on YouTube, Instagram, and TikTok doing content on there as well. But Twitch is the main location you can find us promoting panda positivity, inspiring others to keep moving forward, and not knowing what the bamboo we're doing, but having a fun, hype, and overall safe time. So,
Bum Bum, where can we find you?
Well, sometimes I pop out in your chat, and that's about it.
And then you sacrifice something to Cthulhu, I know.
Yes, but you know, that's like more on the downside.
Okay. I remember that. And I will be saying it for him because he dropped out. You can find Lord Val on twitch.tv/LordValGaming, on twitter.com/LordValTwitch, yes, and on Instagram, LordValGaming, on TikTok, LordValGaming, and you can find me on twitch.com/TheOrcosaurus, on twitter.com/TheOrcosaurus, and on Instagram.com/Archosaurus. And I don't know if you watch this on Facebook, then you can find me on YouTube/Orcosaurus, or you can find me on Facebook if you do not watch this on Facebook by going to facebook.gg/OrcosaurusFB. You're welcome. So many addresses, so many avenues. Alright, this has been an absolute joy with you all, and I hope we can do this again soon, and until then I bid everyone a farewell. Tell us in the comments how wrong we were, tell us in the comments how right we were, leave a like, leave a thumbs up, leave a thumbs down if you didn't like it. I don't care, I just want to interact with you. And have a great time. Until next time, bye bye.
bye.
Have a good day, everyone.